May I first request Mr. Ashish Khandelwal, founder ANQ, ex Xiaomi and Bajaj Finance, ladies and gentlemen. A huge round of applause. Now we have Shashi Jha, founder Jigsaw Law. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. Our next speaker is Vaibhav Sharma, founder of Coke Studio and D Hidden. Welcome on board. And finally, we have with us our moderator, Aritra S, Legal and International Expansion ANQ. And now the stage is all set for a mind-blowing discussion on real-world asset tokenization and how it is going to revolutionize our investment landscape. Gentlemen, the stage is all yours.
Good evening, everybody. This is the exact number of people I saw back in 2015 when Bitcoin was getting discussed. So be very proud of yourselves. You're way ahead of the curve from the rest of the world and all whatever is happening in India and crypto. So my name is Aritra. These are people who we know each other very well. That's why we decided to do this panel so that there's no new people coming in. But this is a word that we have heard a lot. This is a word, real world assets, that we have seen a lot, read a lot in the last 2 years. If you ask anybody who's in crypto or Web3 or blockchain in the last 2 years, they'll tell you real world assets is the next big thing, is the next big thing. But honestly, the point is there even anything being done in the world of real world assets? Are companies being made? Who's even giving licenses to these? Who's even making money in this real world asset tokenization? Is it an absolute out and out gimmick, or is it something that's actually happening? Whether it's India, in the private sector, whether it's government. So I've got some folks from the legal sector, somebody who's building a company in this, and somebody who's successfully sold, one of the only few founders I know successfully sold a crypto or a Web3 company in India to a large L1. So we'll start with Ashish, who's the founder of ANQ, who flew in at 6 a.m. today in the morning to speak on this. But tell me honestly, Chief Ashish, do you think RWA is even a thing, or is it just like one random Google term? It's a cool thing in crypto that people keep saying. And the second part is, does it even make sense for the way our country is structured right now in terms of how the Companies Act is structured, in terms of how the economy is structured? Does it even make sense to have RWA companies in India?
Okay, so is RWA real thing or is it cool stuff? I think it's a cool stuff which is real. So there's a simple answer, because everything has to be a cool stuff before it can get really exciting for lots of players to come participate and start thinking about the real stuff which can be built, and which is with the RWA, which is real world asset tokenization comes into place, right? Now, if you look at from a country standpoint, not only India, across the world, right, many economies, I think while initial frenzy of the blockchain was about the crypto, right, and over time, as most of us realized, crypto has real use case, right? I think it got abused a lot for a variety of reasons, right reason, the wrong reason, just everything altogether. But then, as you go deeper in the technology, you realize that the use cases are far beyond what we have explored so far, right? Especially when it comes to real-world asset tokenization. So, keep it short, right, and simple. Think of it this way: in the current scenario, current scheme of things, there are lots of assets, right, which only certain accredited investors have access to. Primarily because of the entry barrier which is there, of the execution cost which is there, of the entire ability to understand and execute some of these contracts which are there. Now, if you look at from a retail or large audience standpoint, if you are able to fractionalize them, if you are able to reduce the cost of entry barrier, if you are able to make information more transparent and adaptable to anybody and everybody, and make it more liquid, the participation goes up. Right? And in any of the economic activities, as the participation goes up, liquidity moves up, economic activities start triggering, right? So that's a whole piece. Now the whole point is, do we really need a blockchain or Web3 for this, right? Can it be done with a microservice architecture, with the API, and couple of the pieces? That's where the real answer lies, right? Because most of the pieces can also be built in the microservice architecture or other technological mechanisms. But if you look at when it comes to asset, right? I mean, when it comes to finance, everything starts from trust and ends in trust, right? Eventually, if you have to move into a scenario where you can have the larger participation, you want to have a trustless architecture. Why so? Primarily because if you look at and something which you have witnessed, right, as a country as well. Some of the people, if not all, right, find it difficult to invest into real estate because you know that it can be manipulated, right? You know that prices are speculative. You have no idea about the real information, right? Whether there is litigation and other pieces. Now, primary purpose of blockchain technology, which brings in immutability, right, transparency, those pieces makes it foolproof, and hence, for a real-world asset tokenization to exist, blockchain or Web3 is a must. Right? So it's a cool stuff which I think will revolutionize the way we interact with some of the assets from the investment standpoint.
But how do you make it viable for the end user? Like, say, my maid who makes 40,000 rupees a month, can she or he afford a 1 CR property just because real-world assets are there? That's question number one. Second, do you really think end users or investors, do they really even know how a bank works? Let alone how a bank works. Do they really even know how UPI works? उस बंदे को तो फर्क ही नहीं पड़ रहा है. So why would he care that ये blockchain में बन रहा है या मैं JavaScript में कोई architecture बना रहा हूँ? Why would an end user who's an Indian today care if I tokenize and fractionalize say a 50 crore property in GIFT City, divide it into 10,000 rupee sockets and give it out as tokens? उसको क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है? So how do you make it viable for the regular Indian investor?
So in fact, that's what it answers, right? So if you look at from that standpoint, right, your made even me, assume I have no idea about the blockchain technology, right? All I care about is what is the use case, right? Now, especially the weaker section, especially the people who have been staying away from the financial inclusiveness, right? From that sense, primarily because see, not everybody can afford to invest 50 lakh rupees, 1 lakh, 1 crore rupees lump sum, amount. But everybody has an ambition, right? So even in this example, right, or in respect, for that maid who is earning 40,000 rupees, she also has a right to have a better future. Now, for her to have a better future, she has to have access to not only lending, right, not only credit, but also the investment asset where she can park some money for the better future. Right? So that's one thing, right? So 40,000 rupees, she can always, let's say hypothetically invest 400 rupees a month, right? Or 4,000 rupees a month. In fact, when we were young, right, and earning whatever small amount, right, and couldn't afford a real estate, let's say hypothetically, right? That time we used to think, what if I could have bought 1 square feet or 10 square feet every month, right? By the time I would have, accumulated the entire piece, my value would have been locked, right? I would have realized the appreciation at the same time. I would have built the asset, right? So for an end user standpoint, they don't have to worry about whether it's a blockchain or not, right? Blockchain is the means to achieve the outcome. Outcome is, for some of these people who have been staying away from any of these kind of investment instrument and have no access to bring them together, right? So it increases or enhances the financial inclusion. So that's number one. Number two, if you look at sorry, your second question was?
The second question, how do you make it viable to the end user? Like, how do you make it, like, for example, so many companies today, they have reward ecosystems, they give you coins, you swipe this card, you get this coin. But for the average user, how do you make it even awesome in a sensible manner?
Makes sense. And in fact, first time you also asked, they don't even know about the bank, right? See, that's another beauty, right? Some of these people, or most of these people, also feel very uncomfortable interacting with the bank, right? Because you'll find, a bank, guy is selling you something which is, not making any sense from the investment standpoint. And I think unique to lots of the stories we have seen in the past, right? It's not that the banks are not fraud prone, right? Every now and then, I think banking system equally has equal amount of frauds. The moment you bring in this piece, right, for end user standpoint, because where you were trusting one particular centralized institution, now you are trusting a system, a process, right? So that's one thing from the adoption standpoint. Now coming to the second piece, which is liability, right? Bad actors are always there, right? And that's the reason why I think there's a greater need always to have a right set of regulations, right? Now, when I say right set of regulation, I'm not talking about the over-regulation, right? Not regulators getting into the business, but regulators defining a criteria to ensure that there is enough and more consumer protection mechanisms which are put in place in order to instill that trust even in the zero trust environment, right? Because I think in some of the discussion one of the panelists said it's not that you are creating a solution for somebody who is sitting in a fancy office, right? You have to take it down to the last person. If you have to take it down to the last person, you have to give a trust, and like it or not, right? It's not that everybody trusts with the banks, right? While we believe so, right? Or we have been made to believe so. So over time, I think if you put those right layers with the right amount of right practices in place, and since it will anyway reduce the cost of transaction, it makes it much more meaty and meaningful for end users to adopt. And anything which is good, adoption increases.
Fair enough. Sashi, come to you. You're a lawyer, right? You've dealt with the largest two exchanges in the entire world, right? You've dealt with, legal for Wazir in India, which I was also part of once upon a time there. Heydays, Sari's already given me a look, heydays of doing crypto exchanges in India where we were doing billions of dollars of volumes before government came knocking. You also led Coinbase in India, right? If the government of India, through its departments, for whatever reasons, comes so harsh on things like crypto, virtual digital assets and all of that, which is, in my book, still least of their concerns in terms of a larger set of issues that the government has. Real estate is still real estate as a sector contributes much more, right, in terms of tax, in terms of the amount of liquidity, the money which moves through and all of that. Do you really think you have REITs today, you have AIF models, right, how you invest in India? There's also minimum investment criteria and all of that. Do you really think RWA, because RWA needs massive structuring, real world asset tokenization needs massive overhauling of the way real estate is done in India. Do you think this will even make sense in a country like India? For anybody. We know of so many companies who approach you, who approach us for investments. Like, what's RWA? I want to tokenize what? My go down. I want to tokenize a 2 BHK property. I want to tokenize my bungalow and divide it into small square feet and sell it off as tokens. Sir, ये होगा India में possible? And if yes or no, free legal advice, how do you even structure an RWA company in India?
Before I answer your question, you mentioned a bit of right. So a wise man in government or part of government once said during one of the meetings some time ago that government is like a road, right? So let's say the traffic police is not able to control the accidents. So sometimes what government does is it says, okay, no more driving on this road. This has exactly what happened with crypto in India due to a very severe or I'll say regressive tax reform. Anyway, that's in a bidding of the government. They do what they do. Only they know why they do it. Second, you mentioned about the potential of RWA. I know one platform which is doing $1 trillion worth of RWA pass through. $1 trillion. There's a company called Broadcast. $1 trillion.
It's a world market, right?
Yeah. Now coming back to India, whether RWAs can be done or not, and if it can be, what are the challenges, how it can be structured. Now, my answer to whether it can be done or not in India is an empathic yes. It can be done. And there are enough legal protection in our existing legal structures, existing laws and regulations to allow RWA. Why I'm saying it is, RWA is nothing but you are fractionalizing an asset to increase its liquidity. Real world asset is there. There are already laws in India to take care of norms like registration. If it is, let's say, a land record, right, registration. If it's a security, is that corporate entity and start selling those shares, those fractions. Unfortunately, in today's legal environment, as far as land ownership is concerned, that fraction of ownership is not recognized as holding the land. That's why the underlying legal or equity structure has to be very crucially examined the governance around that, I mean, whether a transfer on in the tokens will actually translate into transferring the ownership of actual land, that we need to decide. Now, that's why I said the structure has to align to the underlying asset. If I go to, let's say, securities market, we are in Gujarat, Mr. Ambani's son is getting married, I think. So we'll talk about Reliance Industries. Let's say I have 100,000 Reliance Industries here. I want to fractionalize it, tokenize it. Today it may be 2,000, 2,500 one year, I don't know what the price. And we'll make it 10 paise. Start selling it 10 paise. The problem is, in RWA tokenization, unless we restrict it to, let's say, a geographic market like India, if it is global in nature, then the securities laws of not only India, but also different markets have to be taken care of. That becomes a regulatory issue and a governance issue, not necessarily a legal issue. RWA is a very interesting and very topical subject, and legal regulation within that again is a very interesting topic, very close to my heart. So if I start speaking on this, probably I will take the whole day. So I'll give the mic.
Charge them money later on. But since both of you are being extremely positive about things, which brings me to you, Vaibhav. You've built companies in the veterinary sector. RWA is
enable the lower rungs of society to actually partake in what is evolving currently in society. Like Ashish was talking about, where, say, the example of...
First thing, I said earlier, right, cool stuff, well, it has to be, but it has to, come with the mindfulness, right, which essentially mean the consumer rights protection, right, structuring, right, amount of education, right, has to be done. Talent development is another piece which has to be taken care of. And while the list can go on, I just try to conclude by saying that then making it easier for an end consumer, because see, from an end customer standpoint, it doesn't really matter, right? What matters for the end customer is how easy it is to use, how useful it is, right? What is the kind of benefit which is going to come, what are kind of legal / right protection which is going to be thrown behind, right? Once we are able to solve and put those blocks in places, I think this could be a phenomenal tool to achieve what we intend to achieve, which is a $10 trillion or beyond economy one. So yeah, so this is what it is on my side.
Don't even know how many zeros are 10 trillion. Tashi, 30 seconds. What does the legal fraternity or the larger laws need to change? 30 seconds.
Okay, so from government side, I'll say a bit of clarification around if the underlying asset is backed by the tokenized asset or the derivative. Then the enabling provisions in law to recognize that as an actual owner of the asset. Now, from industry side, there are a few things. I won't elaborate. I'll only take up some points. Then let's say, in India, Benami property is illegal. It's prohibited by law, right? So when an industry is creating a tokenization structure for any real world step, RWA, either or land record or something else, then you need to have complete KYC information built in, because that is a core requirement of Prevention of Money Laundering Act, right? And it applies to article tokenization as well. Similarly, you need to have sufficient, let's say, transaction records, customer protection, and stuff like what happens, let's say, if I am owner of a token and I lost my token, or I forget to access, I forget how to access the keys, etc. Then what are the protection measures for that? To also build anti-fraud features, anti-phishing features, etc. So that non-consumers who are not maybe tech savvy, who are coming onto the platform are not cheated. So these are some of the things which we want to take care of. Another very quick point, especially in the context of securities market, right? So if we are creating an RWA based structure, be it security or a derivative, by definition, derivative is by definition a security, right? So either through those negotiations or dialogues with current securities market regulators, Securities and Exchange Board of India, either create an alternative trading market structure for RWAs or simply go and apply for an exchange license. So those things has to be done. And that will make the market more transparent, that will make the governance easier for all players, including government and other stakeholders. So that's my big two suggestions.
Well said. I like the question that you asked, and I'll approach it with the 4 years of entities that you're talking about. So, on the regulatory standpoint, I think, while regulators and banks are trying to protect the country and to control of how things work well, I think they should do so not at the cost of impeding innovation. There are technologists and domain experts like yourself and Shashi and teams like Blockly that are trying to do a lot of good work. So I think putting out letting listening here and truly trying to understand how this is a new skill of innovation that can enable a lot more value. That's something that we think from a regulatory standpoint. From an investor standpoint, it's not about it's about not jumping into fads. And I think the Web3 ecosystem has been around long enough for investors to see for themselves, while you're investing in potential, now it's time to invest in the reality of how whether the technology is being built on. Take for example metaverses. Interoperability is still an issue. There are teams that are trying to do so, but I think it's about realizing what works and what doesn't, and backing the teams that are trying to really enable valuable change in the ecosystem. And from developers and product managers, I think it's about changing the mindset that that business works with easy money. The Web3 ecosystems unlocked a lot of money in the ecosystem, people with high salaries, and there are kids who just graduate from university to become product managers and developers who don't understand how business works and haven't had enough experience under their belt to understand the value that you deliver should be coherent to how much you get paid, for example. Right? So it's about putting it down into the work and really getting the work back from a product management or engineering example and work towards innovation and not for family or that. So yeah, I think it's just those are the
Alright, super. So you got a point to make, otherwise we'll close this.
The only point I'm trying to make, if you're creating anything with RWA or blockchain or anything tech, or if you are upcoming startup entrepreneur or someone, don't try to save a few bucks today. Consult a legal and regulatory expert, because the money you will spend today will save you multiple times in future if you have the right advice. I know it's a cliche because I'm a lawyer. I
So
wish
she's
for that.
selling services.
Yeah,
Give your
but,
number also.
don't necessarily come to me. I mean, talk to any subject matter expert, but do take an advice. That's the only thing I want to say.
Alright guys, thank you so much for whoever is here. This still honestly reminds of 2015 when only 10 people in San Francisco and Delhi were hearing the word Bitcoin. If you're here, you're hearing the word real world asset tokenization. There are no laws on this subject across the world. There is fractionalized asset, but trust me when I say this, in the next 5 years, land, property, goods like shoes, everything will be tokenized and traded. And this is going to be the next actual front-ending product barrier for making blockchain known to your grandmother and grandfather as well. So keep building, and if you are building anything to do with RWA, we do invest, keep in touch with us, also partner with us because we run financial firms, we have a couple of regulatory entities and an advisory body. So,
May I now request Ms. Omika Dubey to kindly come and felicitate all our eminent panelists here, ladies and gentlemen, with our token of appreciation. Thank you for your valuable time, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for gracing all of us. May we have a huge round of applause. There is a felicitation ceremony. I would request you all to kindly be together. Ladies and gentlemen, can I see some energy? You just had refreshments. You can throw some now. much.